The seven deadly sins. So the seven deadly sins have seven corresponding virtues, right? And it's interesting. My understanding is my journey has been through these different pride, lust, wrath. Let me see: gluttony, envy, greed, sloth. Wrath being one of my particular problems. Anger, and I didn't know what the virtue was to that. And so I realized at some point that when I became angry, if I wanted to balance that out, I just took myself to another conscious level. If I could be aware of it, I could lower my intensity. I could shift my, and I don't know how I do it other than just finding a place of peace inside myself. But it's also finding space. So what is space? I mean, it gives me, well, patience is the corresponding virtue to wrath, which is anger. And I guess space requires time. It's like counting to 10. So when one gives themselves some space, I think some of the energy dissipates within that space. Anyhow, that's how it kind of works for me. And that's what I've been learning to do here. Deserted in the desert for so long now. It's an interesting thing to find myself here after giving up so many things. But the journey, anyhow, I was talking about, and there's a journey of seven. There's a journey through our chakras. And most people live in three-dimensional reality, which corresponds with the three chakras, lower chakras. And they think of, feeding themselves, having children, but having a nice house. All these things to provide for this physical body. And the physical body is spirit, but it's spirit vibrating at a lower frequency. And we can identify through that, through our ego construct and the things that are identified to ourself. Okay, we can identify with that and build a world around that. And have that supported by the other construct that's around here, which supports the ego construct, the larger construct, which in this country is called the United States, or us. Okay, which creates a boundary. It's interesting, I mentioned this to you before, the us and them, the United States and the European Union. I noticed this is the grapes. What's it say right here? USA, EU, but that's USA, but us and them, again, there you go. It's this duality thing. But anyhow, I think I digress a bit. But it's not really, because that's what duality is based upon.
You talk about as above, so below, and every seven deadly sin has a corresponding virtue. Isn't that a duality?
No, it's okay. So it's an opposite in a sense, but all opposites are the same. So anger is like a compression, intensity of an explosion, To me, it's like this intensity. It's like, but if you have space and it doesn't get confined, it doesn't explode. And the compression of these feelings, these compacting them in, holding them in, until they finally explode out, It's what anger is to me. So exploring, making space for things that are there. I'm sorry, I didn't quite, I'm not answering your question, I don't think.
This is okay, man. What is riffing?
I'm sort of...
I can stop if you want.
So, no, it's okay. I mean, I was talking about the three, most people live there. Okay, to me, there's two different worlds you can live in. Once you start to live in your heart, you begin to, and listen to what's in your heart, you begin to feel for others. And as you begin to feel for others, you begin to see through their eyes, which is essentially all our eyes. We all want the same thing, We all have that within ourselves.
Growing into your heart, is that moving into the fourth dimension?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. A fourth, and then the fifth dimension is beyond that, is actually consciously moving beyond the feeling that's identified with the body into this, what I've experienced, is kind of an ether that has spirits, entities, everything that ever was, that existed, that ever lives and continues to live now. Not those that have dissipated have focused all their energy. So, okay.
I've heard that the fifth chakra, the throat chakra, I've heard has a lot to do with speaking truth.
It may. I mean, I know to me, truth speaks through me. Maybe not right now. This is what I know is the truth, but I have moments when periods, not just moments, when channeling is the wrong word, but I call myself a liar, so I become the liar, and that's David played the lyre, and that was an instrument for.
Minstrels play lyres, and I fancy myself a bit of a troubadour.
And I've said, to me, it seems to me like that's the cup running over. Your cup inside that runs over. And in this way it manifests itself in this joyous way that you have this communion. And what you're saying is extemporaneous, but it's coming from all. And you become, as I call it, like the three musketeers, one for one and one for all. So you're aware and conscious of your connection to everything. And that awareness, which is chi itself, everything is spirit. So the all and everything is God, or whatever people would call that. Okay, so it's bigger than what we are. Then there's the chi, the spirit itself, that makes us the same thing. What we are in spirit, and so is the all. And we're just a tiny, we're just a reflection, a dream, an emulation of that, as long as we're being honest and true, and not following the crowd, or just what everybody else tells us, and what our heads tell us, because our heads live in the lower chakra, in the material world. The material world is a basis for the spirit. Okay, it's a vehicle for the spirit, in a sense. But it's also spirit vibrating itself at a very low frequency. So if you continue to focus on low frequency stuff, that's where your attention goes. That's where you're going to go. So where attention goes, energy flows. You have two spiritual commodities. You have time and you have attention. You spend your time, you pay your attention. That's why they say it that way. So funny. Because people should know that. It's when you trade that time and attention for money, or nowadays it just goes into a bank and you sign everything. And when you sign a name, which identifies you with all the stuff that you have and all the stuff you acquired, which is going to pass away. It's going to turn into dust. Just like the things of this world, where thieves and rust can get to them. Don't save your gifts here. Save them where thieves and rust can't get to them. So where is that? That's in your heart. These are your dreams. Everything is in your mind. It's in the mind, your mind, and the mind of the all. But when you save them in your heart, they're saved in sort of like the computer bank of the universe. And that way you don't lose them. So where is your attention focusing? On the things that you love. And whether they're with you now or not, they're still in your memory banks and the memory banks of the absolute, because you're also in the memory banks of that. Because you are part of it. You're not some fiction that's made up in the mind, this lower frequency, which will pass away. That's my understanding.